Hi, welcome to Rick Snider's Washington, the exclusive content on the YouTube channel you can't get anywhere else because these good stories take a little longer to tell than on the shorter version social medias. Today, talking Lone Star Dietz. Was he really an Indian? That's a big debate. A lot of people have talked about this. He was the Boston Redskins coach, 1933-34. Actually posted an 11-11-2 record, so he didn't have a winner or a loss. But anyway, William Henry Dietz claimed to be an American Indian, a Sioux off of the Dakota reservations. There's been a lot of discussion. It even went to trials, things like that. And in the end, I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I did write about this, in case you want to catch it in my book from a few years ago. It's on Amazon. You can get it there. So Lone Star Dietz maybe he really wanted to be an Indian. Maybe he really was an Indian. I don't know on all this. But he was raised by two white people. And the talk was really that the father had an affair with an American Indian woman, and this was the product of it. And that man and his wife had had a stillborn child, and he went and got Dietz to replace that child. So, there's something there. I mean, it gets murky all the time. He went to the Carlisle School of Indians, which was a very famous school at its time. He played with Pop Warner. He played with Jim Thorpe there. So he's going to an American Indian school dedicated to it. And he also lived in the culture. And, it all came out. There was some talk. What really came out was in a night of just about a fight in a diner about sugar that really prompted him to end up having a trial about whether he really was one. Okay, so World War I's going on. There's sugar rationing. It's a big deal. You think things we cut back on today, rationing coupons in World War I and II, there's no way of getting around them. And Dietz is eating in a diner, so he decides he wants more sugar in his coffee, grabs the sugar bowl, puts more in, and the man sitting next to him goes, "Hey, you're taking too much sugar." Well, Lone Star said something I can't repeat to the man, and the man, pretty mad, he almost got into a scuffle. Turns out that man was the head of a local draft board. And suddenly, he wants to know whether Lone Star Dietz is really an Indian or not, because American Indians were not full American citizens until 1924. And if he was an Indian, which he claimed, he was exempt from the draft. But Dietz claimed that. But the man said, I think he's actually a white man, and so he's a draft dodger. And they put this into a trial. Trial went on for a long time, testimony on both sides. Jury ended up being hung over it. Okay, they're not giving up. They're going to try him a second time, and Lone Star doesn't have the money to go through a second defense. So he decides to do a nolo contendere. If you're a lawyer, I probably said that wrong. Charge, and that basically means I admit that the evidence against me makes me look guilty, but I'm not pleading guilty, but I'm not saying I'm guilty, but I'll go ahead and do that. And he served 30 days in jail for it. So they would say, well, then you were convicted of not being an Indian and lying. Well, I don't know if that really proved anything in the end. Dietz could have tried to defend himself again if he had the money. I don't know. That's really a weird thing. Dietz was a very good college coach. He coached at several places. His win-loss record was basically 2-1 wins. Here he didn't do much, but Washington, back then it was the Boston Braves, 1932. In 33, they're going to switch stadiums, and they're going to go over to where the Boston Red Sox play. And the owner, George Preston Marshall, always being a marketing guy, all the NFL teams tried to play off of the baseball names because baseball then was much, much more popular. And so by going over to the Red Sox, he decided to make them the Redskins. He wouldn't have to change the logo from the Braves. Marshall was tight on money. So this was a win-win. Align yourself with the popular Red Sox, not have to change any of your logos or anything. What could be better than that? And that's why he did it. There's a lot. That's a whole other story that we could talk about on this team's name. But that's the truth of why it switched over to that. And in the 1930s, it said is really the height of popularity of the American Indian in American society. Back when they did the cigar store Indians and all. Today, we see these as racist symbols. But back in the 30s, it was a big deal. So Marshall was also cashing in on that. So he gets himself a coach who's an American Indian. Has him dress up in the gear and everything. Great marketing for it. on there. Lone Star knew how to make a buck. He also played an Indian in a movie out west. You know, one of them, well, I think they call them spaghetti westerns or something like that. And so he wasn't against trying to make a buck off of it in the end. In the end, when the jury had to decide whether Dietz was guilty or not, it wasn't whether he was really an American Indian. It was whether he believed he was an American Indian. And then the jury went hung on that point. And I think that really summarizes Lone Star Dietz's life. That I don't know if he was really an American Indian, but he believed and wanted to live his life as an American Indian. And in this great country of ours, you get to do something like that if you want. So we're just going to say Lone Star Dietz is American Indian and leave it at that. I mean, there's no sense of arguing about it anymore. But a fascinating story about Lone Star Dietz. Was a really interesting guy on all of this. And he just played well into George Preston Marshall's marketing plans. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Hey, got a lot of great stories coming up, so make sure you check into YouTube with it. And please, please subscribe, because I got to get to 1,000 people to get some advertised money out of this. And it would help if I made a couple bucks. That's probably all it is, but it would help me. And we're almost at 600, so be one of the people that helps me get over the top. I appreciate it. I'm Rick Snider from Rick Snider's Washington. I'll see you again soon.